There are so many awesome tabletop role-playing game and adventure books coming out. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all the options, and I have been reading a ton lately, so I thought it'd be fun to put a video together sharing some of my recent favorites. Let's start it off with this hulking tome of Crown and Skull by Runehammer. As you can see, I haven't finished reading it yet, but already this game seems so awesome. Really cool system, D20 roll under, but there's no hit points, so whenever you take damage, you lose a skill or a piece of equipment. I think that sounds super fun as a GM, getting to explain how an enemy's attack might destroy the player's sword or something like that. It also has a really cool hero point system, so you can totally customize your equipment and your skills, build completely custom spells. What seems really, really cool is that all of those pieces and parts that maybe in other games are kind of separate systems all relate and depend on each other because of this hero point system. Also, this book is insane. It is so, so cool. I'm not sure that I've ever read anything like it in terms of a tabletop role-playing game. The way it flows from straight up fiction into mechanics of the game, into narrative setting stuff, back into mechanics, into fiction. It weaves in and out of all this stuff. It's just a really cool book. Even if you don't actually play this game, just the way that it presents the setting and how that reflects on the mechanics of the game. And there's these really awesome little pullouts of actual fiction with characters experiencing the world, and kind of sets up the story of the setting. Really, really cool stuff. I'll have links to everything I talk about down in the description. Next up is Foundations, a solo world-building game by Tom Anna. So this game is basically just a series of prompts that will help you create a world and draw a map using a deck of playing cards. I actually got the deck of cards with the book. I think using these cards, the prompts are all right on there, so you wouldn't have to look at the card, reference the book. I think this might be the easiest way to play the game and create your world. What initially drew me to this book was the cool artwork and layout. Just the design of the book kind of shows how you can draw your map as you play. And I also think the prompts are really evocative and cool, and I think it would be really, really easy to create an entire fantasy world just by spending an hour playing this Foundations game. Okay, brief intermission from the suggestions to tell you about how you can support this channel and get all the fun stuff that I'm working on. I have a Patreon where you can get all of the digital versions of my guidebooks and adventures, and every month I send out a new zine in the mail to my Legend tier patrons. This month, I haven't announced it quite yet, but I'm making a collection of little weirdo dudes, NPCs, character ideas. It's going to be super fun, and you'll hear more about that in future videos. I also have an online shop where you can get the physical versions of all of the guides and adventures that I make. And also, I have a upcoming Kickstarter for Dragontown and the Darkness Below. I will be talking about this a ton coming up. I'm working super hard to finish up all the revisions and additions to this book. It's a collection of 10 zines in one, formatted so everything ties together and it's like one big awesome adventure campaign. There's a link in the description where you can sign up to be notified when the campaign starts. I don't have an exact date for when the Kickstarter is going to happen because I want to be completely 100% done with the book before I launch the Kickstarter. I'm getting very, very close, so it'll definitely happen soon-ish. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you for the support. Back to the fun new tabletop role-playing game books. Okay, next up is Cloud Empress by Watt. This is a Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind inspired mothership based tabletop role-playing game. It's the game and the setting. There's actually a Kickstarter going on right now with a setting expansion that looks very awesome and a reprint of all of these zines and box set stuff. Super, super cool looking. This is the kind of game that I just wish I had more time because I would love to run a full full, like, rich campaign in this world. It's apocalyptic science fantasy stuff, and I think what Cloud Empress really nails about the Nausicaa feeling, it's not just the giant bugs and the poisonous wasteland and the militaristic factions and stuff. You know, usually with apocalyptic settings, it's more dark and scary, but Cloud Empress has this sort of melancholic feeling. I think that's probably the right word to describe it. The game system's based on Mothership, so it's still dangerous. You know, there's cool classes, you're rolling your D100 against your skills, and there's stress and panic. But everything written in this game and the supplementary adventures and setting guide zines really just excellently reinforces the fantasy of this place. There's a mystery to it, an alienness to it. There's still cool fantasy spells and dungeons and items and stuff. All of the artwork is so incredible throughout all of these zines. I can't wait for this Life and Death expansion stuff. I'm just really, really enamored by this Cloud Empress game. Okay, next up, something a little bit different, combining two of my favorite things, tabletop role-playing games and comics. My friend Scott Kurtz just came out with his excellent graphic novel called Table Titans Club. If you have a kid that is into tabletop role-playing games, do yourself a favor, grab this book. It's a wonderful story about a group of kids that have a D&D club at their middle school, and it sort of goes in and out of the real world and the fantasy world, and, you know, just the struggles they have of being a kid. Great coming of age story. The artwork is great. The story's super fun. I'm really proud of my friend and all the work that he put into it, and now the book's finally out. It's even available in Target. Super, super cool. If you like comics and role-playing games, definitely grab a copy of Table Titans Club. Next up, we have these two brand new OSE Old School Essentials adventure anthologies. I stinking love these books so much. I just feel like this is how you present a collection of one-shot dungeons. There's a bunch of wonderful authors in these things. The illustrations are fantastic, so good. Each author, each adventure has its own illustrator that accompanies and really does a great job of conveying the feel of the adventures. And these are all like classic dungeon adventures. Get in, get out, you know, get your treasure, solve a problem. Really easy to drop into a campaign or run as a one-shot. And the thing I really love about these books, these old school essential adventure books, is the layout. It's so straightforward, so easy. It's just the setup, and then room by room, where there's a monster, it gets pulled out to a side. Where there's a magic item, it gets pulled out to the side. The descriptions of each room are just what the players would see right away, and then what they would see if they look or investigate a little bit more. Glenseal's maps are perfect. They're exactly what you need to easily run the dungeon. And I think the other thing that's really cool about these anthologies is that as you're reading through each of these adventures, you can really tell, even though they're classic fantasy dungeons, you can really tell just the where each author is coming from. They're different sensibilities. You know, going from Diogo Nogueira's Cathedral of the Crimson Death, that's all about this like blood cult, these like blood knight people, to Nate Tremay's Shrine of the Oozing Serpent. It sounds similar, but Nate's is about this giant soot slug and these little frog guys and gnomes, and it's whimsical. And each of the adventures in here all have a little bit of a different feel. I can't believe the value you can get out of these little hardcover books. Definitely check out the OSE Adventure Anthologies. Here's another one that's a little different. 21 Hand Games by Don Eskridge. As the name implies, it is a collection of 21 different games that you can play with a couple of people and just your hands. So these aren't exactly role-playing games, but I think this is a really great booklet of game design, and I think it would be super fun to fit some of these into a role-playing game. You know, there's a cool wizard blasting one called Mirror Shield. There's a really cool riddle one called The Guardian that would be fun to drop into as like a test to get into a dungeon or something. The artwork in the book is great. There's even a section at the end that will help you create your own hand game. I just think these hand games are so cool, such a fun idea, and I'd love to see more stuff like this make its way into into the tabletop role-playing game world. Next up is another wonderful little hardcover book called The Job by Andre Navoa. This is a game all about pulling off a fun heist, Ocean's 11 Italian Job style. Gontijo did the graphic design, so the layout and everything is awesome, on point for the theme. Games Omnivorous is the publisher, so the production value of this book is amazing. And this one just seems like a super fun one-shot kind of game. So there's no stats or anything. The gameplay is very simple. The players will choose a role to play. That'll give them some skills or stunts, as they're called, and then they'll buy inventory, and that's kind of what makes up the character sheet. And the game plays out in 2 phases. You sort of plan the heist, and then you execute the heist. There's complications that come in, and as the heist goes on, the tension rises because you have a stack of D6, so whenever a player fails an action or something goes wrong, you add dice to the dice stack, and once the dice stack topples 3 times, the heist is over, the players get caught. I think being a referee, like a GM for this game, would be super fun, throwing out complications, even coming up with heist ideas and setting a budget, and then seeing how the players with their stunts and their crazy ideas interact with that stuff just sounds really, really fun to me. Definitely check out The Job. Okay, I hope you found some good suggestions in there. Definitely check out the links in the description, and do me a favor, leave a comment with some game or some adventure or some new book that you've been loving recently. I'm always looking for new games to play, new books to check out and get inspired from, so definitely hit me with your suggestions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!